council meeting of Leslie for March 6, 2012 to order. Roll call, please.
Beagle? Here. Dyer?
Here.
Flory?
Here.
Fox is excused. Moats? Here. Schuster? Here. Arizona?
Here. Join me in the pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Need a motion for the approval of the agenda.
I make that motion.
Need a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Moat, seconded by Councilmember Beagle to approve the agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries. Consent agenda, need a motion for that?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion to approve consent agenda by Councilmember Schuster, seconded by Councilmember Fleury. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carried. At this time, if there's any public comment on any non-agenda items that cannot be handled during regular business hours, please step to the podium. Watch out, don't trip over each other. Okay, no public comment, we'll move on. Unfinished business. Appoint member to the board of review. Which I don't have, do we?
Unfortunately, we do not, and we have put on a full court press lately trying to find somebody, and just have had trouble getting somebody who wants to serve on that board.
Yeah, it's always been. Okay, we'll continue, so this time, nobody for that. Under new business, we need to update, an update from Fitzgerald Henning. So you're up, Greg.
Thanks. For those of you who don't know me, I think you all do, I'm Greg Minshall with Fitzgerald Henny and Associates. Little update on the water project. We are moving now into what I would call phase 2, and the state calls it the application part 2. If you all remember, we went through the application part 1 to get preliminary approval for funding. They said you are fundable. We have completed the plans and specifications for both the water main and the meters, although we're still doing, if you get any questions, we are still doing meter inspections, and we'll right on up until the day we hire a contractor to do the work so that we give them more information. We were in 4 homes tonight, 4 homes tonight, and last night we did 6. So people are still calling, we're still getting in. We're doing a little extra documentation for you. We are also documenting, and you'll get a separate report on all the services that we're finding that are lead services. We're also trying to document, which is a totally different subject, sump pumps and sump pumps that pump clear water to the sanitary sewer. So eventually, down the road, those can be disconnected. So we're still following that process. We are somewhere 75 to 80% complete. I'm not sure we'll ever get 100% complete because we can't get into 100% of the homes, but I have to say that every single home we've been into, the people have been just marvelous. It's got to be the friendliest town in the world. Really, people have been just happy to see us, talk to us, and our biggest problem is getting sometimes away so that we can move on to the next one. So those plans and specifications are done. They've been sent into the DEQ for approval, and their next step is they will issue us a permit. And at the same time, then we will work with Brian and Sherry and Danae and advertise for bids. And that's where we actually send the plans out. Contractors will bid on the 2 separate projects. It's one project, but we're going to bid them separately. One is the installation of all the meters, and the other is the building of the iron removal plant. So we should have our permit. We're supposed to get DEQ comments back on the 23rd of this month, and They're actually supposed to issue the permit a week early, so I'm not sure how that's gonna work, but, sometime by the end of the month, we'll have our construction permit. We'll move on to advertising for bids, and then we will come back to you, at the end of April, actually probably your first meeting in May, with the bids in hand, and we will have evaluated the bids and let you know if we think the low bidder. Will do some research and make sure that they're capable of doing the work, that they've performed other work, that they're not bankrupt, that they can get bonds and insurance, and we'll check on their references, and we'll come back with you with a recommendation for a tentative award. Now, what will happen is, we'll ask the board to make a tentative award that will be subject to the approval of the financing, the final approval by DEQ. So, we'll be back to you in a little over a month with that, and hopefully we'll get good bids. The market's still very good, and we're hoping to get a good contractor, because that makes life easier for us and for you and for everybody. And especially, we're gonna pay a little closer attention to the people who bid on the meters, because we understand that those people will be going in every home in the city, and we wanna make sure that you have somebody who's gonna do a good job, represent you well. So that, I think that's everything. Brian, did I leave everything out? There will be some stuff coming from Tom Tracy-Ack, and we're gathering things from bonding attorneys and putting together this part 2 of the application, which is due the 23rd.
Off the top of your head, do you have an estimate of how many lead services that you guys have found so far?
I would bet that there are 40 of them, and maybe even more. Actually, just today, we had one of the technicians start tabulating those, and we'll give you a separate map where they're marked out. And what we might want to do, one of the ideas I had is that during the construction phase of this project, we're going to want to do some public meetings or whatnot. We might want to do some informational meetings or informational mailings to people who have that. Lead services in and of themselves are not bad, but there are certain ways that you can minimize the amount of lead in your water. Like, for example, if you have a lead service, you're going to get drinking water. You want to run that water for about 2 minutes before you drink it or use it for making coffee or whatever. So there's some things that we can come out with. Also, we might want to do some informational things on how to reduce water usage, like fixing leaky toilets and a few other things that might be good public information things. So, but that's down the road, but you'll be seeing that, and hopefully that'll help people out and help get their bills down and get them to where they manage that. I think the intent will be to monitor water usage before we implement a new billing system and let people know. For example, if Brian's household usage is twice what you'd expect from a house that size with 3 people now, congratulations. We might want to let them know, hey, you better have a plumber take a look at this, because you're using a lot more water than what we would expect. So I don't think the intent is with the day that the meters are in to start billing on that, but collect the data and be able to let people normalize things. I can say that from experience, because one of the houses that we went down in the basement, and there was a leaky valve, and it was leaking a considerable amount of water that's just being wasted. So the more information we can get out to people over time, the better.
Do you recommend that we tell these folks with the lead service to get that changed? Is there a quick fix, or is it expensive?
There's not a quick fix. You have to dig from the house all the way out to the street to where it connects into the, what I would recommend is, if people want to get it fixed, they can, but we can give them information on how to reduce or eliminate any of the bad effects. The other thing is that we're going to monitor and watch for any possible grant programs or anything that comes up. There were some a while back from EPA. I haven't seen anything recently, but who knows what will come up over time. And if there is something, we'll come back to you and say, you know, there's a grant program where we can get these eliminated, so. But we'll have that, at least we'll have that information now, where, at least at the homes that we've been in, where they are, so that would be a lot better information.
You guys will be looking for grants, or those just, they funnel them down to you if they're available?
We will look for them. I know Brian's always on the lookout for
Right.
that sort of
Right.
thing. Yeah, it shows up in some of the magazines, some of the seminars we go to. Yes, if we hear anything, we'll be sure to bring
See
that
that
back.
change, but, you know, we can't force them, I guess, but it'd be nice. But
Yeah,
at least
it
let
would,
them know.
it would be nice.
That the alternatives.
Yeah. And the same thing's true of the sump pumps that go to the sanitary. Over time, we wanna get that extra water out of the sanitary because you're just
Right.
paying to treat that water.
Right.
and it's- Yeah, so,
Makes sense.
so the side benefit of doing all the inspections is we'll have a lot better information that we can use down the road. So, yes,
Are
ma'am.
these folks being told about the lead service as you're doing these?
Sometimes, sometimes not. If we don't, I kind of judge it. One lady asked me yesterday, and very nice lady whose husband recently passed away, and she said, my husband wanted to know if that's a lead service. And I said, nope, it's not a lead service, I can tell you that, because you can see where the copper was crimped, and you can see copper, when it starts to corrode, will get a green color to it, so I pointed that out to her. She felt a lot better about that. So.
Yeah, I would too. It's like if it was my house, I'd wanna know.
Yep.
As quick
And
as
that may
somebody
be
knows.
something we need to discuss, is how we let these people know and what we wanna do for information on that, and how we can present it in a non-alarming fashion, cause really it's not, if you treat it right, it's not that bad. But, yeah, it's important to know about it, and maybe for drinking water, they wanna buy bottled water or something, so.
To give you one example, I met with the Kellogg Foundation because they specialize in grants for vulnerable children and children's health issues. And I told them we have this project going on, and you know, we wanted to change out the lead, and they said, well, that's not enough of a public health issue that we won't fund a project like that. So it's not as Greg says, it's not as alarming. I agree with the mayor. I mean, we would love to have them all changed out and be, you know, done with it over the years. You know, the city has worked with homeowners to try to change them out as we go along. So at least this gets us one step further of having all the data, of knowing where they're all at, and you know, trying to figure out a way to get them all changed. And in the meantime, come up with some way to give
Right.
people the information.
And I think over time, let's say we were gonna do a road project where you wanted to rebuild 2 blocks of a road. Well, we're gonna go back and take a look at, are there any lead services? Well, if we're gonna be building the road, digging that up anyway, let's do that. Are there sump pumps connected to the sanitary? Well, let's run storm leads out to the property so they have something that they connect directly to. And that way we get a good positive connection. So it's information that may be used over 20 or 30 years to get this taken care of. But looking down the road, it'll be good information to have. I would anticipate that we would be, if everything goes well, we should be getting a contractor to start work sometime around August, early September, and a year from now have things pretty well constructed, so.
Is that something, with these, back on these lead services, is that something that we would require you to do, or are you just gonna do it on your own to inform these people of the lead services?
Well, I won't do anything without
Okay,
going
okay,
through.
so that's something that we would ask.
Yeah, that's something that you're gonna ask, and like
Okay.
I said, I think as part of the whole project, we wanna do some public
Right,
information
that's what I want. I'd
things,
like
and that might
let
be
them know.
one piece of it, and,
Even though it's not a big danger, but it is something, it's an exposure problem,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, it's
lead.
like Pam said, if I had one, I'd wanna know it, and
Yeah,
if I had,
one.
if I had little kids,
I'd
you
wanna
know.
change it.
Yeah.
But to give them the information and then
Right.
let them decide. that's what I'm getting at, let them know.
Right, and a lot of people already know. Some of the old
Right,
timers in town
right.
say, yep, that's a lead service, and,
It's been around forever, I know.
yeah.
I mean, that's all we used to have.
Yep, lead plumbing used to be very, very common, so.
Good.
Other questions? Thank you.
Okay, now we need to approve the Fitzgerald Henning construction engineering cost contract. City manager's letting us know.
Yeah, if you remember back in the fall, we had okayed the first round of contracts with Fitzgerald Henny, which was for the preliminary design and preliminary engineering of the water plant and the meters. As Greg talked about, the part two of the application, one of the things that the DEQ needs is to see that the city has some type of agreement with the engineer for the construction engineering and the inspections for both projects. So I had Greg estimate and come up with a proposal and a contract for this. This is, as you can see, this contract is for $212,030 plus a couple incidental items. This is a not to exceed contract, and you know, kind of an estimation depending on which was, you know, we've estimated fairly conservatively, you know, assuming if we have, you know, trouble with the contractor, or we just want to be safe with, especially as Greg mentioned, with the water meters and inspecting those, since we are going into people's houses. We want to make sure that that project is running smoothly at all times. So this, you know, we're not tied into this full amount, but it's a not to exceed contract, and feel like this would be safe at this time to enter into this agreement to include as part of the part two application to the DEQ that goes in later this month. And then of course, the project goes out to bid.
You know, I did review this format as an amendment to the original agreement we had. I talked to Greg about it. So part of the contract that you're authorizing to be signed by the mayor and the clerk is this not to exceed component. It has their general conditions of an agreement that are part of this, and we've modified those, so we have modifications that go with this. And then there's a billing component of this that, you know, it's the fees are billed on an hourly basis, and you know, those rates will be attached. So, you know, in terms of what is actually going to be signed, it has some subparts. Engineering contracts or construction contracts typically would have to form the contract documents, and you know, it's pretty straightforward from that basis. So, no, I have no objection to the format of it.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Beagle, seconded by Councilmember Moats to approve the Fitzgerald Henning Construction Engineering Cost Contract. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion's carried. Next on the agenda, we have planning discussion, our master planning, which the city manager will tell us all about.
Thank you. I've been invited the supervisor from Leslie Township, Dallas Henry, here, so if there are any questions. But as most of you know, over the last year or so, last year we received a grant from the Land Information Access Association as part of their Partnership for Change program. It was a very small grant to explore the benefits of joint planning, because we have been talking about ourselves updating our master plan, which we've had possibility of sharing a plan with the township. So we created a small committee, myself, Sherry Nye, and Pam Beagle from the city, Dallas Henney and Sherry Fiesel, and Jerry Calhoun from the township. We had probably a series of, I think it was probably about 6 meetings, where we really brainstormed through the issues with help from a facilitator, from Leah, and discussed several different options. Over the last few years, the state's made some different changes to their statutes to allow for joint planning, joint planning commissions, that type of thing. So we explored a couple different formats. We both kind of decided against a joint planning commission, and that would be basically where we would create a joint plan, get rid of our own ordinances and zoning laws, and have a joint planning commission that would, consist of both township and city members, and that would basically control everything that happened in both localities. Felt like there was a lot of procedural or political issues with that type of a plan. So we looked at next what's called a shared plan, where we would both do an area-wide master plan. We would share a master plan, but we would retain our own zoning and planning commissions, and basically still regulate our own areas, but we would basically share some future planning principles for the area. And right now, we feel like it's a good time. We have a great relationship with the township. We've all worked well with them, and some of these issues with the planning, it's better to try to figure those out now while there's not development pressure, while there's not problems to address, and come up with different agreements or plans for the future that benefit both of us right now while there's not that pressure, so that if we ever do face that, a lot of the groundwork has already been laid. So with that said, we wanted to bring this to the council's attention tonight for a consensus to, or have a discussion and get possibly a consensus to move forward with this, to create a proposal. The township has been working with a planner who they have been very happy with, and she's a very, very good planner. I've actually had experience with her in other venues, and basically would like her to present a proposal at the next council meeting to move forward with a shared master plan. And I don't know if I'm hitting all the points, Dallas, if you have anything else to add, or Pam, or Sherry.
I think just that she met with all of our committee this month, and I don't know if you said that or not, but we actually had met with her too. We were very pleased with her ideas, and
I think it makes sense from a policy standpoint. We, I think, we might not have been trailblazers, but we've been really ahead of the curve in terms of joint cooperation, or that type of thing. As you all know, we share a fire department, we share a cemetery, we do a lot of things together. So I think this is just another step policy-wise, which shows that we work together. On top of it, I think it's a major cost savings for the city, because it's really doing the same work to do a shared plan, maybe a tiny bit of extra work than if we were just to do our own city plan. We'd be spending $25,000 or $30,000 anyway. So this money. I think having a shared plan will open us up for grants in the future. And I think it might also be good for, for development in the future, because I think developers will say, this area has their act together, they work together, you know, we know what we're getting into, here's the future land use that they've, you know, the community's decided this is how they want their community to look, you know, 10 years from now. So I think there are a lot of benefits to going this route.
I definitely concur with the city manager, that we've had the past, practice of, good cooperation, so I don't see any problems. I think it's a good for the future, and that's what the governor wants, right? He wants us to all get along, no. I think it's great, good, I think it's great, so. Any other discussion? We have a consensus that we're gonna
I just
proceed?
had a question. Are you gonna be starting from scratch then and taking, you know, from both master plans and creating one big one, or how are you guys going about it?
Essentially starting from scratch with ours, because ours is so
It's so
old. The township has a newer one, so if you've ever read the master plan, there's a lot of information that can be kind of brought over, but in terms of, you know, goals and objectives and future land use map, I think, you know, quite a bit of it will be from scratch. Maybe not so much on the township's perspective, because, you know, there hasn't been as much land use change, being primarily agricultural. But we have a lot to update, and there will be a lot of work for the townships also, because it's basically merging it into this one, you know, document. And there will be some shared public meetings where, you know, we have both city and township residents, you know, talking and discussing different points. So this, you know, creating a master plan, it's not a short process. I mean, it's probably a 9-month or a year process, I would imagine, especially for this. And there'll be new maps and a lot of new census work and that type of stuff. So I would say, you know, yeah, I would probably 75 or 80% of it will be pretty much from scratch.
Okay.
I would just comment that I think from the township's perspective, our goal is, the issue is basically our border, okay? And the goal that we're looking to try to achieve is that we understand what the city's ideas are as far as future growth and expansion and land use, that we can match that up with what we think would be good, and that down the road, if something came along that didn't fit that template, that we'd all be on the same page and say, that's a good idea, but we want you to do it over here. You know what I mean? And if we're both on the same page, we think that it just makes for a lot more, it makes a lot more sense. As far as the master plan for the township, outside of updating the statistical things that have happened through the census and things like that, we don't anticipate a lot of changes in the township as a whole, but I think majority of the process, at least from the joint perspective, will be this border issue, trying to deal with what we think ought to happen where and how. And, you know, you never know what may come up until it comes up. So, you know, once we start down this process, we may get people show up and have ideas that may or may not work, and then we can deal with them. But today, I think it should move along rather smoothly. But the hope and goal is that after the master plan is done, and then both entities will take their zoning and their rules and start to format them to the master plan. So that's what would really give this thing the teeth then to be effective. So that's kind of what we're trying to get toward. And hopefully we don't end up with a contentious situation as the annexations and the border fights and all that stuff. And, you know, just...
Well, again, in theory, some may look at the plan and say, well, there's really no room for us, you know, we don't fit into it, so we're not going there. There's, you know, there's that danger, but going through this process, if that is the case, it's probably because it's something that we didn't, as a community, want in that position. And unfortunately, what's happened in Michigan and a lot of, you know, in the past is developers have really driven the, you know, the debate. They decide, well, we want to buy this piece of land because it's cheap and this is where we're going to put it. And now the city, you have to run water out to us and the township's got to deal with it. And then there's an annexation fight. And it's just a lot of money is spent over something that didn't make a lot of sense land use wise. It wasn't a smart use of land or of growth, whereas there's a way that we can do this to still be pro-growth and pro-business, but yet plan it more in a way that makes sense with the infrastructure and with, so that it's a win-win for the city and the township. Because otherwise, you know, right now, times have changed a little bit because the economy's been down and there's not the development pressure, but if it ever picked back up, the development pressure is always, well, let's buy this farmland for cheap and plunk down, you know, our building or our box store or whatever, and then, you know, cities are left to, you know, have a lot of vacant land that's ready for development, but not utilized, so.
And I think that, just so you understand the township's perspective, we would love to see the city grow and develop and have great things happen. Not so much in the township. We really, you know, quite frankly, if we never build another house in Leslie Township, I would be okay with it. I'm not saying we don't want to do it, but we certainly aren't gonna go out and campaign for it, okay? And so, we'd love to see all the development happen in the city and let you guys get all the tax base, get all the revenue, and we'd be happier than heck. What we really don't wanna see though is have it start to grow outside toward, you know, burning up cornfields and things like that. So if we can come to terms of what we think makes sense, we just think that, you know, we can only look forward to, you know, 10 or 20 years, and God only knows what'll be going on then, but most of us won't have to worry probably. So. But at least if we can lay a nice foundation for our successors in the future, that they'll have something to work with and deal with whatever issues, and we just think it makes sense. So that's our goal.
And then the final approval, is there one, or is when the committee is done, it's done? How does that work?
For the plan,
Mm-hmm.
well, yeah, the final plans would come to each board.
Okay,
So,
so I wondered.
and in terms of doing the plan, I mean, the committee will, there might be a small steering committee, but all of you will hopefully be involved in formulating the plan. So, I mean, this plan is not gonna be accomplished by this committee. Our job is, you know, pretty much would be done once we decide to move forward with it. We might keep it together as kind of a steering committee to, you know, maybe ferret out what, you know, certain procedures are, but there's a pretty set procedure for developing a master plan with public meetings and, you know, notices and that type of thing. And hopefully, as council members and our planning commission members will all be, you know, pretty heavily involved along the way, you know, attending some of the meetings and providing some input and that type of thing, so. But yes, the final plan does come back to the governing body for approval.
Those that were here when we went to the master recreational plan that we needed for the 100, Wild 100 project, we had to scramble because we were working on a time frame. I know Sherry does, and Danae and myself, and basically that's what we're doing here, the same thing, and it involved the city, the township, and the school for that one. So we're just doing the same thing here that we did a few years ago, and we're almost, did we do that, right? That recreation plan is up. But with this not being done since '93, like you said, it's pretty much gonna have to start over, and that's what we did with the recreation plan also. a lot of planning and a lot of input into it, but that was probably, I know it was instrumental in us getting the grant for that one-room schoolhouse, so that's what we're looking at here too. And it's a cooperation thing too, other than Dallas, it's a cooperation thing. The school anyway, the school cooperates, but that's basically the same thing, and it will have to be revamped, tweaked and brought up to date. And that's the same thing with the recreation plan. It had been neglected for years, and we just brought it up to date. But I'm looking at the grant perspective, that's what we need to look at.
Well, we wanted to bring this to you, to kind of get a consensus that this is a path. We didn't want to show up with just a proposal and say, this is where we're going. Wanted to have some chance for discussion, and I know the township board is going to do the same thing. Then come back next month and we can have Lynn Wilson, who was the planner here, to present her proposal, and if that's council's will, to proceed in that fashion.
Any other questions? Do we have a consensus to proceed? All right, we'll proceed then.
Thanks, Dallas.
Thanks, Dallas. Okay, now we need to, we have the Adopted Bridge Grant Resolution number 2012-11 to authorize and support grant application.
This is the same local bridge program that we applied to for, this will be the 5th year. It's really the only funding option for replacing local bridges. Last year, our application scored extremely well. We were among the top. However, there's only $4.5 million to go around for a 9-county region. So we got beat out by a few bridges, and that money was eaten up very quickly. So, I've inquired with the committee that grades them and asked what we can do to improve our score, and they pretty much said there's not a lot we can do. It's just that there's just not enough money to go around. So until there's some type of a transportation funding solution, they said you just keep applying, and hopefully one day it works out. So this is just our typical resolution that we've passed in the past, supporting another round of grant applications for the local bridge program.
I'll make the motion to authorize the grant application.
I'll second that.
Okay. We have a motion by Councilmember Schuster to approve the grant, bridge grant resolution number 2012-11, seconded by Councilmember Beagle. Any discussion on the motion? Discussion? Roll call, please.
Beagle?
Yes.
Byer?
Yes.
Lori?
Yeah.
Moats?
Yes.
Schuster? Yes. Mayor Zamora?
Yes.
That vote was 6-0.
Okay, motion passes. Okay, now we're on item E, approve the non-motorized plan and adopt resolution number 2012-12.
Well, the city receives Act 51 dollars. We actually receive them in 2 different funds. We have a major street fund and a local street fund. And one of the components of the act is that we have to, over a certain period of years, spend a certain percentage of the funds on non-motorized transportation options. And in the past, we have done that, but over the last several years, we've kind of fallen behind in that. So Sherry has been definitely on top of this for a while, and trying to keep us in compliance. But we just, the last couple of years, given how things have gone with the budget and that type of thing, we just felt like we didn't want to spend money just to spend money on sidewalks or non-motorized options So at the end of this year, our Act 51 funds actually went into non-compliance, which is not, it's not a penalty per se, although they are withholding funds until we pass a plan to which that is what this is that we, in order to get back into compliance, we have to pass a plan for the next 3 years to bring ourselves back into compliance. And as you can see, the amount of funds is not an extreme high amount. It's about $8,300 that we need to spend on non-motorized transportation options. So we put together a plan that we felt addressed some of our needs. One is creating a non-motorized plan, which is something that we have wanted to do for a long time. This would help centralize our planning basically on, our non-motorized options and sidewalks. Then we added a couple sections of sidewalk that are pretty glaring in our network, in front of the bowling alley and in front of Allegiance Health, that helps kind of connect the connectivity of our current sidewalks and that type of thing. Then we also included replacing some on Church Street up by the ball fields, and possibly on Maple Street, although after discussing that a little bit with the mayor, he didn't feel like that would be as beneficial. But we don't have to, that, if we did the other ones, that would be enough funds to get us back into compliance. So something to think about. We'd have 3 years to do these, to do this, but I would venture to say it would be, worthwhile to, if we have to spend the money anyways, to go ahead and get these done and get back into compliance. Not have to worry about it.
So the sooner the better, right? Get them done, spend the money.
The whole street of Church can be, our whole Church Street can be redone.
Yes.
And that's terrible.
It is bad.
At least the place to Adams needs to be redone
Needs to be done too. Yeah. It's like,
instead of doing it.
I don't know if it's the grass is grown over or if those are actually like 2-foot sidewalks.
Right.
Yeah, they're old.
It's bad. And all kinds of complaints.
Single file.
Any questions?
Any questions on this?
Okay, motion is in order.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve the non-motorized plan and adopt resolutions 21212 by Councilmember Moats, seconded by Councilmember Fleury. Any further discussion on the motion?
I just wanted to add that, non-compliance sounds very bad. I can assure council that we have been on top of this the last few years, and we are in close contact with Josh from MDOT. We've been discussing this, so it's more just kind of a procedural thing. Again, that we just did not want to spend the money if we didn't have to, so.
That's something we're penalized for, so that's a good thing, right? We just have to use it, which we can do. Any other discussions, questions on the motion? All right, roll call, please.
Fire,
Yes.
Florey,
Yes.
Moats,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Mayor Zamora,
Yes.
Beagle.
Yes.
That vote was 6-0.
Motion passes. Okay, now we need to have some discussion on changing of the dates for our regular council meetings for April, July, August, and November of 2012.
Well, a couple of these are pretty major conflicts. The August and November meetings fall on election day, correct?
Yes.
The July meeting is the day before July 4th. And in April, the meeting falls on spring break again, which definitely, I think, need to change the August and November meetings, and then it's up to council if, if anybody's gonna be gone on spring break or over the July 4th, if we need to address those.
Anybody gonna be gone in April or spring break? You are, okay. The recommendation is to just change these all to the following Tuesdays. Does that fit with everybody's schedule? We can just do it all as a whole, blanket? Does that work with everybody? Works with me. I know in July I'll be gone, so that one I won't be here. Keep it.
So the second Tuesday of each of these months?
That sounds like, do we need a motion for that? Or just-
Yes.
Okay.
And in April, don't we have a special meeting on the 17th as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we'll have those two weekends.
So we'll have on
or
the
2
10th and the 17th, correct? Okay.
Yeah, because the budget workshop isn't it on the 17th?
Yeah. Okay, so, no further questions. Somebody wants to make a motion to move the regular scheduled meetings for April, July, August, and November to the second Tuesday of each month? We have a motion? Motion by Councilmember Byer, seconded by Councilmember Moats to move the regular scheduled meetings in April, July, August, and November 2012 to the second Tuesday of the month. Any further discussion on the motion? No further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Okay, that's approved. Now we have some correspondence from the Youth Baseball Association.
This is an annual request to utilize the Washburn Street fields, as they do every year. My only recommendation is this year is that we just put some language into the motion that encourages them to clean up the trash on the fields. The last 2 years, our guys have reported a lot of problems with trash being left in the dugouts and overflowing trash barrels and a lot of trash that blows over the field and that type of thing. So would really like to encourage them to police the fields that they use and have the kids clean up the dugouts after the game. And I think the girls softball, they do a very good job
That was my question.
at the Church Street fields. As I say, our guys don't mind changing out the garbage barrels, but it does make it tough when they go to mow and they have to, walk around and pick up a lot of trash, and it's easy to clean up after yourself. So
If they clean up and dump their garbage bags, do we have a place for them to take them to?
yes,
Direct them?
we have a dumpster at the DPW garage, which
Yes.
they do know about. Yeah.
It seems like this issue was brought up last year too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Was it a problem?
Was
Is
it?
it still a problem?
Mm-hmm.
Who's
It was a
gonna
problem
enforce
last year.
it if you do?
Well, I think, I'm gonna have to have a meeting with them probably prior to the season. I just like it in the motion so that we can, make sure that they understand that everybody's aware of the problems that we've had. I'll talk with the leaders of the baseball association.
Yeah, I think they should make.
Well, absolutely.
And I know our DPW employees have worked with them before and talked with them. It's just a matter of educating the whole organization. Why? Because, you talk to one person and they're not there, and it just needs, the culture needs to be changed. But it shouldn't be. I know when I played baseball when I was younger, that was a thing. After the game, you pick up the dugout, and don't leave your
in order?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Councilmember Moats, seconded by Councilmember Beagle to approve the Leslie Youth Baseball Association request to use the Washburn Street fields contingent on players, parents, coaches removing the trash from the fields. Is that all right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion? Okay. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carried. Okay, we come to committee reports. Councilmember Beagle, anything?
No committee reports, however, just want to remind everyone that the chamber luncheon is tomorrow, and it would be an excellent one, for attendance if you can, as the speaker is, J.D. Norman, the new owner of J.D. Norman, formerly Norman Industries.
Should be a good one.
Should be a good one.
Councilmember Fleury.
No, we go to training next week for the Parks and Rec, grant. Well, I guess I'd like to have maybe a meeting after that.
Sure, yeah.
Kind of brainstorm.
Councilmember Bolt.
We have a cemetery meeting next Tuesday at 8 a.m. here. And that evening we'll talk with the Legion about the flags, and we were not on their agenda for this month, so, or for the past month. So they wouldn't let us talk, so, anyway, so we'll be there this month.
Is that
See if we can,
the lighting issue on the flag?
actually that, we have a light on the
We
flag
do now?
now,
Okay.
yeah. No, it's, putting the flags out for the veterans.
Oh, okay,
It's just a costly,
yeah.
so we're trying to get them to share that cost with us or see what we can come up with, so. I'll have another report next month.
Legal counsel have anything?
Not really, nothing to report on any pending litigation. Brian and I are working on property maintenance, civil infractions ordinance. Made a little bit of progress on that and hope to have something forthcoming to council to start to, chew on and maybe put out for public hearing, comment, that kind of thing. So we're working on that.
Great. Thank you. Councilmember Schuster, anything?
Nothing.
Councilmember Byer? Nothing. Clark?
Elections went well, only 155 voters, so long day for the workers, but it went well.
I should have came later in the day so we would have had something.
Get everyone to time it just perfectly to keep you busy all day. Yeah.
Actually, I did see that there's a pool fundraiser at McDonald's.
Yeah,
Next
I
week.
was gonna mention that, good. I have some tickets, anybody wants to buy them, so. Anyway, yeah, that's good. Everybody familiar with that, with the fundraiser at McDonald's? Okay. Myself and Councilmember Beagle and Stan Williams will be going, and what's his name, Warren?
Yes, Joe Warren.
Joe Warren will be attending the planning and zoning class at Delta Township tomorrow. I also will be attending the Parks and Rec training that Councilmember Fleury is going to during the legislative conference, which I'll be attending. The governance committee meeting also with the MML during that conference. That's it. Getting geared up for this summer events, as usual. That's all I have. City manager? Okay, finish it up.
Just a few updates. Our project at the wastewater treatment plant is moving along. That's actually currently out for bid right now. So hopefully at the end of March, at the end of March, we will have a bid opening. So hopefully that those bids come in very good. And I did get, it was nice, I did get some good feedback from the DEQ because they reviewed our plans for that project, and the plan reviewer told me that Infrastructure Alternatives, who are engineers on that project, did a very nice job on the plans, and there was very little that they had to ask for correction Made me feel pretty good about that. The Moose project has been continuing back here. They're trying to put in the foundation. I'm not sure where that project is gonna go after that. There's still some insurance and banking issues that they're trying to work out, and it's just tenuous. It's the only, it's not something that I've ever experienced before. Derek mentioned the pool fundraiser. This is something that kind of came about very quickly. We had sent out some fundraising letters for the pool, and Scott Carnes, who was one of the owners at McDonald's, came to us with that idea, and the school had just done it as a quick way, a nice way to do a quick fundraiser. And so hopefully we will get a lot of people there. So feel free to get the word out on that. As far as the pool project is going, we submitted all the paperwork that was necessary to the National Park Service, so we're just waiting on the okay on all the different checklists that we had to submit for like the State Historic Preservation Office and the wetlands and all that stuff that you have to go through with state and federal grants in order to be able to get moving on that project, because the sooner the better on that. I do have city manager evaluation forms for everybody, and I will email this out as well. Next month will be my annual evaluation. So typically, what we did last year, which seemed to work well, and I think we had initially established a committee to come up with this process, and they came up with that I will fill it out first and email my answers to all the council members, and then each of you can give your answers and then submit them to Danae or Carrie to tabulate, and we can discuss it at next month's meeting. I will also be attending the MML conference on the 21st. I did work with Jennifer a little bit on, I have created an RFP for the trash service and also a service agreement to go with that, which I need to give to Mark to review. And then hopefully I think we can move that project forward here very shortly. And we just finished our first round of interviews for the DPW director position, and had some good candidates, so I think that we should be making a decision pretty quickly on hiring for that position, so which will be
How many did you interview?
we interviewed five candidates. We had picked out, we had 35 applicants, we picked out 8 people to interview, and 3 essentially dropped out, and we ended up interviewing 5, so.
What's your goal on that, Brian?
Goals and probably to make an offer to a candidate within the next week.
Oh, well.
Okay. Any more questions of the city manager? Okay. Motion to adjourn.
So move.
Get that.
Motion by Councilmember Breyer, seconded by Councilmember Most, to adjourn the meeting. Adjourn. Thank you very much. My meeting.